Hi guys, it's Miss Simon. So I wanted to make this video today to help you guys out with science. So yesterday you watched a Edpuzzle on the atmosphere. So the next sphere of Earth that we're going to talk about is the atmosphere. We've already talked about the geosphere. Remember, the geosphere has everything to do with land and rock, okay? But now we're moving into the atmosphere. And the atmosphere, as you kind of learned yesterday, has everything to do with air, okay? So anything that's dealing with air is going to be a part of the atmosphere. Okay, so today we're going to talk about what exactly is the air that makes up the atmosphere and the different layers of the atmosphere. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Remember, if I highlight it, you need to write it down in your notes. All right, guys, so go ahead in your notes. The first thing that you're going to write down is just that of atmosphere. Okay, the next sphere we're talking about is the atmosphere. Okay, so what is the atmosphere? The atmosphere is a mixture of gases that surrounds the Earth. Okay, so an atmosphere is the mixture of gases that surrounds the Earth. So we have the Earth, okay, which you all know about, and then there's this mixture of gases that kind of surround us, like the gas all around us all day. Okay, that's what we call, it's part of our atmosphere. So go ahead and put that down in your notes. The atmosphere is a mixture of gases surrounding Earth. All right, and this visual kind of helps us, guys, as we see. You should have drawn this already in your notes. So the atmosphere, as we can see, is all the gases that surround Earth, all of this air piece. And then we have the geosphere, which we already talked about, remember, which was the land. So the prefix atmo comes from a Greek word meaning gas or vapor. Okay, so that's where we get that atmosphere having to do with all of the gases that surround Earth, because atmo means gas or vapor. Go ahead and put that down in your notes, please. All right, now when we talk about all these gases that surround Earth, we're talking about air. Okay, so the common name for the gases in our atmosphere is air. Okay, those gases are what we call air. So go ahead and put that down in your notes. Now, what is air actually made of? Well, actually, air is mostly something that we call nitrogen. So air mainly consists of nitrogen, which is 78%, oxygen, which is 21%, as well as some other water vapor and other elements. Let's go ahead and add that in there. This is very important. So the air is actually mostly made up of nitrogen. And kind of a quick way and an easy way to remember this is if you think of your hand, okay, the proportion of nitrogen to oxygen, if you think of 4 of your fingers would be nitrogen to the 1 part oxygen. Okay, so most of the air is mostly nitrogen with some oxygen, and then there's a very small amount that's everything else like water vapor. So there's roughly 4 times as much nitrogen as there is oxygen in the air, which is kind of surprising because you guys would think there would mostly be oxygen because oxygen is what we use to breathe, but there's actually mostly nitrogen in the air. All right, moving on. Now we're going to talk about the different layers of our atmosphere. And you guys saw this yesterday in your Edpuzzle video. So just like the geosphere, okay, we learned about all the 4 layers of the geosphere. The atmosphere has layers too, okay? So as you get higher in the atmosphere, so as you get farther away from Earth, the amount of pressure and the temperature decreases. And that makes sense because if we think about as we go higher and higher, closer and closer to space, the temperature gets colder and we lose gravity. Okay, so both our pressure and our temperature decrease. Let's go ahead and add this in your notes, please. Layers of the atmosphere. And as you get higher in the atmosphere, the amount of pressure and the temperature decreases. So as you get farther away from Earth, the temperature drops and gravity doesn't really seem to exist as much anymore. That's what it talks about when we're talking about that pressure. It's talking about gravity. All right, now we're going to talk about these 5 different layers of the atmosphere. Okay, this visual is very, very important. You need to draw it and label it down in your notes. So this first layer, the layer closest to us, is the troposphere. Okay, as we can see, there are planes in the troposphere. The troposphere is the layer that we actually live on. Okay, if we're flying planes in it, obviously it's safe enough for us to be in. Okay, so the only layer of the atmosphere that we live on is that of the troposphere. And that's at 20 kilometers. Now, the next highest is going to be layers that like hot air balloons get to. Okay, so it's a little bit higher. That is called the stratosphere. Then after that, the next highest is the mesosphere. And that's where we see things like aurora borealis and lights and stars kind of start to happen there. That's where we'll see the mesosphere. The fourth layer is the thermosphere. And the final level all the way in space is going to be our exosphere. So there's 5 layers of the atmosphere. The closest one to us, the one that we actually live in and fly planes in, is the troposphere. And the exosphere is the longest distance away. It's all the way in space. Okay. And I kind of like to think of it exo as like exit. Okay. So that's the farthest away. Again, make sure you have this visual down in your notes. It is very important. It's going to help you with your quiz on Friday. All right, now the importance of air. So obviously we know that air is important. We've talked about this before. So air is one of the primary things that makes life on Earth possible. Humans and other animals breathe air, and plants also need the carbon dioxide that is in air to go through photosynthesis. Remember, we've talked about that before. Plants take in carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, and that's why both us and plants are able to survive. So air is very important because it's one of the primary things that makes life on Earth possible. Let's go ahead and put that down in your notes, please. The importance of air. Air is one of the primary things that make life on Earth possible. And remember, guys, that stuff that we're talking about, air, is actually made of mostly nitrogen and then oxygen. So air is what makes life possible. All right, so Earth's atmosphere is primarily made up of which 2 gases? If you said oxygen and nitrogen, you are correct. Remember, 78% nitrogen, 23% oxygen. Which layer of the atmosphere do we live in? Remember, which of those layers of the atmosphere do planes fly in? You said troposphere. You are correct. All right, guys, so that's where we're going to end for today. Okay, remember we are talking about the atmosphere. Atmosphere is all of the gases that surround our Earth. Okay, when we're talking about the atmosphere, we mean air, which is actually 78% nitrogen. And there are 5 layers of the atmosphere. Okay, the 2 most important being the troposphere, which is the one that we live on, and the exosphere, which is all the way out in space. So I hope that this video was helpful. I'll see you guys later.